And welcome back to the Oompa Loompa Cafe here in segment 5 for January the 14th, 2013. Now, in the previous segment, segment 4, you saw a video released by a group called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, or LEAP, LEAP.org. These are all retired or former law enforcement officials who have come out against the prohibition of marijuana. That's their thing, basically. How does that tie into us here at the Oompa Loompa Cafe, or more particularly the state of Indiana? Well, before we can really answer that question, let's go look at another website. This one is the blog, or blog.normal, NORML.org. And in this particular case, it's Normalized Congress, Marijuana Law Reform Heating Up in 2013, written by Eric Altian. And it is essentially delineating the efforts of NORML within Congress and within individual states that are active in the year 2013. And it tells about the various states that have bills before their legislature or in the process of writing those bills, finalizing them for vote and committee review, etc., depending on the actual processes in the individual legislatures, as well as in Congress, because the votes in Washington and Colorado towards legalization for recreational use kind of put a bug in their ear, particularly when they started looking at the numbers on tax revenue that could come from such an effort. So they've listed the states that have significant marijuana reformation law bills in their legislatures for the year 2013. Alabama is considering a medical marijuana law. The measure seeks to enact statewide legal protections for qualified patients who are authorized by their physician to engage in cannabis therapy. Proposal seeks to establish a network of state-regulated, not-for-profit dispensaries, and qualified patients would also be able to grow specified quantities. Here in Indiana, there are actually two separate pieces of legislation that seek to significantly reduce marijuana possession penalties, and they're expected to be debated during the 2013 session. State Senator Karen Talion, a Democrat from Portage, has announced that she will reintroduce legislation to reduce penalties for the adult possession of up to 3 ounces of marijuana to a fine-only non-criminal violation. Separately, Senator Brent Steele, a Republican from Bedford, has announced that he intends to introduce legislation in 2013 that would make the possession of 10 grams or less of marijuana by adults a non-criminal offense. Senator Steele, who chairs the Senate Committee on Corrections, Criminal, and Civil Matters, told the Associated Press that he intends to include the marijuana provision in a bill that revamps the Indiana Criminal Code to align charges and sentencing in proportion to the offenses. In Iowa, medical marijuana measures are also before the legislature. Two separate pieces of legislation, again, that seek to allow the physician-supervised use of cannabis are expected to be introduced during the 2013 legislative session. Kentucky. This one is actually both a marijuana examination and a memorial to someone who fought for marijuana decriminalization at the very least. It's called the Kentucky Gatewood-Galbraith Medical Marijuana Act. This legislation seeks to allow for the physician-authorized use of cannabis, and it is pending before state lawmakers. Democrat Senator Perry Clark of Louisville has pre-filed the legislation, the Gatewood-Galbraith Medical Marijuana Memorial Act, to be debated by lawmakers this spring. The proposal seeks to establish a network of state-regulated dispensaries with prescription. The measure bears its name after longtime Kentucky attorney and cannabis advocate Gatewood Galbraith, who passed away last year. Maine. Maine wants to go the way of Washington and Colorado. They want to be the third state to legalize and regulate the adult use of marijuana, and it is pending. New Hampshire would decriminalize marijuana possession. The legislation seeks to significantly reduce marijuana possession penalties. It's once again before state lawmakers. Republican Representative Kyle Tasker has pre-filed legislation to amend marijuana possession penalties for up to 1 ounce of marijuana. New Hampshire, a medical marijuana legislation proposal that seeks to allow for the physician-authorized use of cannabis. Rhode Island would again be the third, if they beat Maine to it, would be the third state to legalize and regulate adult use of marijuana. Texas, even Texas, is looking to possibly lower the possession penalties for marijuana within the state of Texas. Under present law, possession of 1 ounce of cannabis or less is classified as a B criminal misdemeanor, punishable by up to 180 days in jail and a $2,000 fine. Passage of the new bill, House Bill 184, would reduce these penalties to a maximum fine of $500 and no jail time. Now, you can actually write to your state representatives and enter your own opinion regarding these measures here in Indiana. Illinois didn't appear on this list, so guess you're out of luck. Nothing pending there. But that's not the end of the story. You see, in Indiana, we also had our own law enforcement professional ring in, sort of, on the whole debate about marijuana. And his name is Indiana State Police Superintendent Paul Whitesell. And in testimony before a budget committee on November the 28th, actually it was published November 28th, Whitesell noted that both Colorado and Washington had decriminalized small amounts of the drug for recreational use. He said, quote, "It's here. It's going to stay. There's an awful lot of victimization that goes with it," unquote, Whitesell said, according to a radio station, WFPL. "If it were up to me, I do believe I would legalize it and tax it, particularly inside of the fact that several other states have now come to that part of their legal system as well." The superintendent recommended a system where marijuana users register with the state, wherein if you're going to imbibe, you would go through there to be recognized or to pay your taxes and to keep some sense of it. Give us some stats so that you could monitor it in some fashion. And if you go around it in some other place, that's where my folks would come in and take issue. A subsequent statement from the Indiana State Police was quick to insist that Whitesell's opinion was only philosophical. Quote, "Although the superintendent personally understands the theoretical argument for taxation and legalization, as a police officer with over 40 years of experience, he does not support the legalization of marijuana," unquote. Thus read a statement from the department. Indiana Normal Board member Robin Alexander, however, said that Whitesell's remarks gave her hope. Quote, "We think the struggle here in Indiana is almost to an end." He's right. He's absolutely right, and he's been on the force long enough to know what's real. And several Indiana lawmakers also support the idea of easing marijuana prohibitions. I already mentioned Karen Talion and Brent Steele. But Governor-elect Mike Pence, the office of Mike Pence, insisted in a statement that he would oppose any attempts to make marijuana legal. Quote, "Government-elect Pence opposes the decriminalization of marijuana, and he will base his decisions upon the leadership of his administration on a broad range of qualifications rather than a stance on one issue," unquote. So there's a little bit of a difference of opinion even within officialdom within Indiana regarding the decriminalization, legalization, taxation, however you want to state it, regarding marijuana. Okay, there's actually a running theme here, because going back to segment 1, the 10th Amendment could save the Second Amendment. Prohibition didn't work in the 20s and 30s because it didn't work, and it still doesn't work, as the law enforcement against prohibition stated pretty eloquently, I might add. and with a cumulative experience in law enforcement in the thousands of years. Now, that if you collate all of the members of LEAP who are former either enforcement or judicial officials, you're in the hundreds of years of experience on this particular issue. So, prohibition didn't work for alcohol. The war on drugs is a failure, and we still have a lot of people who are against the legalization of marijuana. Okay, that's your opinion. My opinion is we might need to examine it a little more. Anyway, we're down to pretty much the end of the speaking part of this segment, and we have Temerity magazine clip coming up here in just a few seconds. So stick around for that, and after that we'll be back with segment 6, the closeout for today, January the 14th, 2013 already, here on the Oompa Loompa Cafe. Also, check us out on Facebook, hit like, or leave me a comment if you don't like, or whatever. This show is also about you. It's not about me or my opinions. I'm reporting the news. So, again, Facebook, Oompa Loompa Cafe. You can also find me quite often over at thehollowearthinsider.com. I guess that's all I've got for this segment. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Hi, this is Chad Everson. You are watching Oompa Loompa Cafe with Rick Osmond, and this is Temerity Magazine. Temerity Magazine brings you relic and treasure hunters from across the world 2 times a day, Monday through Friday, right here. Hey, we want to thank all the viewers in Indiana and all across the world that are tuning in live and through on demand. Your support means the world to us, and hey, why not join us right on the hunt, a relic and treasure hunter, or in the pages of Temerity Magazine. Our submission deadline is January 20th, and our next issue will be out February 1st. Please join us. Let's get on the hunt and get a little grizzly.
Just to the right of the hole that we've just been digging, and I've just showed you the cover up of, there are yet more signals. Something here to it. Yep, another button, another reef button. That's 10. Well, 10 buttons. You see that there? It's good stuff. Oops, at the bottom. Aha! Oh!
2 more buttons!
2 buttons! I still got the shank on. I think this might actually...
More like the first button.
Yep. I think it's just the underplating of the button. And another small arm holding wreath crest button. So there we go. I'll dig some out.
Right for us, isn't it?
Oh, yep. The target there, it was Another one of the
In
buttons.
just about a metre from where I was digging, we got another signal. Buttons were showing up in the 30s. This one's coming on in 40s, and we have, as you can see, the ball. Not different, but the front's gone. See, the front was there. Another one of buttons. We've got plenty of intact ones, so.
Get a little grizzly.